Alright, in this video, I'm going to be talking about Menno Henselmanns' claim that cholesterol is anabolic and it causes people to gain more muscle whenever you have more cholesterol. Dietary cholesterol, cholesterol due to increases in fat content, etc., etc. And he postulates several mechanisms for why this might be the case. But in particular, I want to mention one really flawed point in his logic that even if he's right, which he's probably not, but even if he is right, it would cause you to think twice about pursuing the particular strategy that he's recommending to achieve these gains. And he's probably not right. So he says, isn't cholesterol bad for your heart? And Menno Henselmann, who's also not a nutrition expert, by the way, he's not a nutrition expert. He's known for his being an online trainer, coach, etc. He's not a nutrition expert, and it really comes across clear here. He says, isn't cholesterol bad for your heart? He says, nope, the mainstream media portrayal of cholesterol's health effects is about as accurate as the claim of most Olympians that they're natural. The media will have you believe that all the cholesterol you consume ends up clogging your arteries, but the reality is, for most people, how much cholesterol you consume in your diet does not even influence how much cholesterol is in your blood. Cholesterol is so important for the body that it is highly regulated. If your diet does not contain much cholesterol, your intestines will increase their absorption to compensate. If that's not enough, your body will produce its own cholesterol. And then he goes on to say, some people, around 20%, have a genetic variation that makes them absorb or synthesize so much cholesterol that their diet does influence their blood cholesterol level. Even in those hyper-responders, however, a high cholesterol diet does not generally negatively influence their cholesterol profile. If total blood cholesterol increases at all during a high cholesterol diet, both good HDL and bad LDL cholesterol generally increase in the same proportion. There's like so much that's wrong here, and I'm going to just go ahead and debunk it all, but the main thing to focus on here is throughout this entire article, he says that cholesterol is like good for your muscles, it's anabolic, it's going to increase your muscle mass, etc. Throughout that entire article, he's making that argument, but then he says here that dietary cholesterol doesn't actually increase your blood cholesterol. So if it doesn't increase your blood cholesterol, if dietary cholesterol doesn't increase your blood cholesterol, but dietary cholesterol is good for gaining muscle, like how is the dietary cholesterol causing the gain in muscle? Like you're taking it in your diet, it's not increasing your blood cholesterol. How is it getting to your muscles? How is it getting to your testicles? Because one of his other claims is that dietary cholesterol is going to increase your testosterone production, and Huberman makes the same claim. He's also full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a neuroscientist. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But if dietary cholesterol doesn't increase your blood cholesterol levels, how does it actually get to your testicles or your muscles in order to increase your muscle mass or your testosterone production? It can't, because it's not increasing your blood cholesterol. So he wants to have it both ways. He wants to say that, oh, you're not going to increase your blood cholesterol if you do this, but at the same time, increasing your dietary cholesterol is going to somehow increase your blood cholesterol to cause greater muscle gain and testosterone production. He wants it both ways. It doesn't work. His logic is flawed. And to me, whenever I read something like this, something that inconsistent, I'm like, holy crap, like, did he even think what he's talking about whenever he writes this stuff and then publishes it? Does he like not have a little bit of embarrassment about publishing something so contradictory and thinking, oh my God, if somebody sees this and somebody who's intelligent sees this and reads this and realizes what I've just written, this is going to be so embarrassing. If he doesn't have that kind of sense, then he's either not very smart or he's not trying to put out accurate information. He's like, oh, well, I don't really care that much what intelligent people think, so long as I kind of make many other people think that I know what I'm talking about. It just reveals a lack of rigor and of, I want to say, like, integrity, or in other words, like, competence. It reveals a lack of competence to write something like this. But that aside, let's get to this other thing, this other idea that cholesterol production, or sorry, testosterone production requires cholesterol, blood cholesterol. We can look at that through this meta-analysis. There's a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, and they have 5 homogeneous trials of 501 men, mainly middle-aged with hypercholesterolemia. Statins lowered their testosterone by about 0.66 nanomoles per liter, and then women it's about by 0.44 nanomoles per liter. Overall, statins lowered the testosterone about 0.44 nanomoles per liter. And that translates to a reduction in about 3.4%. About 3.4%. I think the figure is actually here in the study, or if did I calculate that? Yes, it is right here. So statins lowered testosterone by about 3.4%. So that's like, you're basically cutting your testosterone, or sorry, you're cutting your cholesterol in half, right? You're cutting your cholesterol like in half, and then you reduce your testosterone production by about 3.4%. What this shows is that blood cholesterol doesn't really affect testosterone production. A 3.4% drop in testosterone is not going to have any effect on anything. Like even doubling your testosterone, say to like 400, I think was it nanogram per deciliter. What is the normal? Besides not the imperial, not the what is the imperial unit? So testosterone concentration, normal. What's the normal? Nanograms per deciliter, as I said. Nanograms per deciliter. Even if it's like 400, 500 nanograms per deciliter, and you increase it to like 900 or 1,000 nanograms per deciliter, you double it. You're not really getting. You're going to get some increase in muscle mass, but the studies to date show that the increase isn't going to be that great. It's going to be there. It's not going to be that great. So we're talking about a doubling. This is about a 3.4% drop. So it's like the difference between 500 nanograms per deciliter and like 485. Is that right? Yeah, it's like 485 versus 500. It's like your body can't even tell what happened. It's like, I mean, it doesn't make any difference. So basically, blood cholesterol levels don't affect testosterone production. So even if you increased your dietary cholesterol and that increased your blood cholesterol, even if that was the case, and it does to a certain degree actually happen that way, the small increase in blood cholesterol due to dietary cholesterol, like maybe on the order of like 10% increase, is going to equate to like a 0.1% increase in testosterone production. It's just like so marginal, or 0.3%, 0.34% increase in testosterone production. It's like 1 or 2 nanograms per deciliter when you have like 500. It's like 1 or 2 out of, there's no real increase. And that's if blood cholesterol increases, which it probably does. Which gets us back to this this article by Menno Henselmanns. Is like, okay, well, let's say that it doesn't increase. If it doesn't increase, if cholesterol does not increase as a result of dietary cholesterol, blood cholesterol does not increase as a result of dietary cholesterol, then his mechanism, this idea that you can eat dietary cholesterol in order to make more testosterone or make more muscle, doesn't make any sense. So the only way to make it make sense is if it does increase your blood cholesterol, which to some degree it actually does. You do get some increase in your blood cholesterol due to dietary cholesterol. And it's not just 20% of people have a genetic variation that makes them hyperresponders. It's more of a continuum, with about 20% of the population defined as hyperresponders according to certain studies, but it's actually a spectrum of people, all the way from people who don't respond at all to people who respond very strongly. Okay, but even if that is the case, like that you increase your blood cholesterol due to dietary cholesterol, well, yeah, you might. Let's say you get an increase in muscle mass gain. What is the cost? Like, what's the cost? Like, the cost is cardiovascular disease, like long-term increase in cardiovascular disease risk, because increasing your LDL cholesterol is going to increase your cardiovascular disease risk, which gets us to Menno Henselmanns' other false fact. This has been debunked like as of like a decade ago. It's not up to date in the latest literature and research on blood cholesterol levels. It says if total blood cholesterol increases at all during a high cholesterol diet, both good HDL and bad LDL cholesterol generally increase in the same proportion. Look, when you're increasing LDL and HDL through diet, and you're not changing body composition at the same time, you're not basically getting rid of liver fat, which is probably driving a lot of low HDL. So if you get rid of liver fat by leaning out, then your HDL is going to go up, and that's a good increase in HDL. It's probably an increase in HDL that indicates a positive health impact. But if you're just changing HDL by modulating, say you're using like a niacin, or you're drinking alcohol, or you're changing your diet, and then you're seeing an acute change in HDL, that's not actually reflecting any biological biological reality that impacts cardiovascular disease risk. You're just playing around with lipids in a way that's not fundamentally changing your physiology, as opposed to weight loss and visceral fat loss, which is going to fundamentally change your physiology because you're going to reduce inflammation and you're going to reduce all sorts of atherogenic processes because you're improving your metabolic function. In the case of just acutely changing your HDL from diet, for example, from eggs, you're not actually improving your cardiovascular disease risk. And it gets even more tricky here and more fascinating in some ways, because over the last 10 years, we've learned that HDL itself is actually atherogenic. Even though high HDL indicates health, it indicates health because it indicates you don't have a lipolytic defect in the liver. Your liver is working well because you don't have a lot of visceral adiposity in the liver, essentially. That's essentially how it's working. Although it indicates good metabolic health, HDL itself is atherogenic. So high HDL as a result of a good lifestyle is protective against cardiovascular disease, even though the increased HDL as a result of that improved lifestyle is detrimental, because it's so overwhelmingly good to have high HDL because of a good metabolic functioning, and so marginally detrimental to have high HDL in terms of its impact on the endothelial function and on the development of atherosclerotic plaques, that the good part of being metabolically very functional outweighs the bad part of having high HDL. So HDL is not a good cholesterol. It's a kind of a marginally bad cholesterol. And then LDL cholesterol is like really bad. So when you're eating eggs and you're getting an increase in both bad cholesterol and good cholesterol, you're getting an increase in LDL and small increase in HDL, that's all bad. There might be some other benefits from egg consumption, apart from, there might be some benefits to outweigh, to counterbalance this increase in overall cholesterol, which is why we tend not to see a very strong effect of egg consumption on cardiovascular disease risk. We just don't. Like, contrary to what people think, like, yeah, it does increase your LDL cholesterol a little bit. It does increase your HDL cholesterol, and we would expect a negative impact on cardiovascular disease risk, but we don't see much of an impact. And it might be just because the increase in LDL and HDL is not that large. Okay, cool. I debunked like most of the stuff here. There's like this weird study at the beginning. There's a bunch of weird stuff. Like, look at this change in lean mass. Like, you see this dietary cholesterol per kilogram of lean mass. Like, you're seeing like no change in lean mass in people who don't get much dietary cholesterol, right? You're seeing like no change in lean mass. And then you're seeing this gigantic change in lean mass in people who are getting a lot of dietary cholesterol. This is just an implausible study. This doesn't make any sense. Like, this would suggest that people who are like vegan don't get gains, and they do get gains. They like can get great gains. Like, I'm not vegan, but I'm like, I barely eat much dietary cholesterol, and I get great gains. I'm fucking getting jacked. So yeah, it's just implausible. Now, it may be the case that eggs are great for weight training. This may be the case, because this goes back to the original reason I posted this study. And actually, we'll just go back to it. I don't want to like open a window that's going to show a chat or something. But yeah, there was this one study where they fed, and I think Andy Galpin was it, and Darren Kando was out on it. This paper where they fed. They said, okay, go eat 3 whole eggs after your workout, or go eat, 6 egg whites, and they equated the protein in each group. There's those 2 groups, of resistance trained people, and they did this over the course of 8 or 12 weeks. And they saw the people who ate the whole eggs as opposed to the egg whites had much better body composition outcomes. It's very clear. And there may be some benefit to eating eggs and even the egg yolks to your gainz. Your gainz spelled with the letter Z, not with no letter S. Gainz, not Gains. It's not spelled with an S. It's spelled with a Z. There may be some benefit to your gains if you eat the whole egg, maybe, but it's probably not due to and it's almost certainly not due to the cholesterol. It's due to some other aspect of it that we don't know what it is. And I'll tell you this: whenever I was training, I first started training, I got to be about as big as I am now in college, and I was like 198, less than 12% body fat, 6 feet tall. I was yoked, and I'm not like I don't look like a huge bodybuilder, but I looked quite athletic. And whenever I did that, I ate like a dozen eggs a day, and it works great. And if that's whether it's the calories or the protein or whatever else, it works great for me. Um, and there may be some potential benefit of something that's inside the egg yolk. There's choline, there's all sorts of other stuff. It's apparently Galpin responded to my thread on this, and he said that they went over this in detail in the discussion. Let's go through it. Let's actually look through the discussion and to end this video. I'm sorry, I'm delirious. I'm this is at 11 p.m. and I'm just trying to finish this video and go home. 6 egg whites, 3 whole eggs, because I wanted to get a video in so that we get resistance training, Kando, and then Galpin. These guys, these folks, man. This is from last year, 2021. Yes, sir. Yeah, Darren, and then Kreider. It's weird how I know a lot of these people. I mean, I guess it's interesting because I train weights and I read, so I guess I know those people, but it's funny. All right, so what did they say in their discussion that they speculated that might be useful in eggs for the purpose of muscle growth? That might explain their results that I was just talking about. Yeah, they say potentially the higher cholesterol and saturated fat intake may have modulated serum cholesterol changes. I don't know about that, buddy. Like, and he says Adler-Kreutz showed a positive correlation between serum testosterone concentrations and dietary cholesterol in postmenopausal women. But that's like menopausal women; they're not producing testosterone. That's a totally different mechanism. So if you're eating dietary cholesterol and you're getting increase in serum testosterone in your woman, that's going through your adrenal gland. That's not going through your ovaries. That's because it's pumping out more adrenal stuff. And if you're pumping out more adrenal stuff with more adrenal stuff, if you're pumping out more hormones from your adrenal gland as a man, you're going to get lower testosterone. Yeah. All else equal, like to wave a very broad brush. Okay, but then he says, moreover, Volek et al. Demonstrated that dietary and saturated fatty acid was correlated with serum testosterone concentrations in healthy young trained men. However, despite finding significant differences in testosterone, there were no differences in measures of muscle mass. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like people eating more, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know if I can really endorse these interpretations. They just don't seem right, and I it just doesn't seem right. And oh, by the way, here is my interpretation of this study. This is a great and interesting study. Here's why I think that there's another interpretation that's better. If you look at table 1, you see there's 3 whole eggs. You see there's 6 egg whites. And those are the 2 groups I mentioned, right? Well, you look at the energy and kilocalories, and they're eating this post-workout. Bro, my friends, my good bros, like the 3 whole eggs is like 3 times as many calories. So if you do that consistently over the course of 12 weeks, and you do it right after your workout, yeah, you want to crush your calories right after your workout. That's what you want to do. And if these guys are getting just 6 egg whites and they're not crushing their calories after workout, that alone could probably account for a lot of the effects. So there's that really important compound there. And I don't think saturated fatty acids and stuff is accounting for things. That's my opinion. And I don't think there's any good evidence yet that that's the case. Spencer Nadolsky mentioned that we should do an ezetimibe randomized controlled trial, and Spencer says he'll fund it. So hopefully, Spencer, you fund our randomized controlled trial. Let's see if oh, he says it on Twitter, I remember. But yeah, where we take ezetimibe. Ezetimibe just reduces cholesterol uptake, back into the gastrointestinal tract, and it reduces blood cholesterol levels. And then he's just like, okay, are we going to see an increase in or a decrease in muscle mass in people who take ezetimibe? And I don't think it's ever been shown that there's a decrease in muscle mass. And I bet that's a study that could be done. There could be done, but there's databases on that. People taking ezetimibe versus not, and looking at the incidence of sarcopenia, body mass, BMI, body composition, etc. But anyway, what's it to me? Dude, I take ezetimibe and I take statins. So my blood cholesterol is like 50 milligrams per deciliter. So I hope to God that, my low cholesterol levels are not killing my gains with a Z. And I want to know if they are. And if they are, I don't know. I'd have to choose like cardiovascular disease risk versus gains. I'm getting enough gains, but if there's that trade-off, I want to know. And I'll communicate it if I ever find that there's that trade-off. We need to do that ezetimibe study. So I have a personal interest in knowing the answer to this question because I want my gains, and I don't want to be killing them with my statins and ezetimibe. So with that said, that is the end of this particular video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that subscribe button, my friends. And I know I'm looking off the screen on the wrong screen. It's just the camera's on a different screen than the actual monitor. Click the subscribe button. Of course, let me know what you think about the video. Let me know if you think I'm an asshole, I'm a shill, I'm a statin shill. I believe in the outdated the lipid theory of cardiovascular disease, the outdated lipid theory. There's no such thing as an outdated lipid theory. The lipid theory is one of the most well-supported theories in all of modern medicine. Hundreds of randomized controlled trials show that it's correct. Of course, other things also cause cardiovascular disease too. They contribute to inflammation, all sorts of other variables. Obesity, even visceral adiposity, as we mentioned before. But the lipid theory is legit, and it is correct. So you can mention how I'm a shill, and I don't know what I'm talking about because I believe in the lipid theory. You could also just like send a comment, let me know what you think about this in general, and then argue with each other in the comments. Also, follow my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Kevin and Bass, KevinnBass. Also, check out my Patreon at KevinnBass. If you become a patron, you can ask me more questions. Please let me know that you're a patron. Whenever you ask a question on Twitter, please limit your questions about 1 a month, not 5 or 6 or 7 or 20. Give me 1 a month, hopefully, because it's overwhelming. I have just an overwhelming number of you guys, and I'm trying to keep up. Trying not to drown with all these questions. If you want to sign up for the highest tier, you can talk to me for 30 to 45 minutes on the phone every weekend. Not every weekend, every month, once a month. As a highest tier patron, talk to me once a month. The $100 level. And then we can talk about anything you want to talk about that I've been posting about, that I've been talking about in my videos, etc. You get more details, more application to your particular situation. You can also check me out at thedietwars.com, and then check out the support page, dietwars.com/support me. I am now officially on every single podcast directory at the Kevin Bass Show. I did that today, the Kevin Bass Show. If you're watching the YouTube channel, if you're listening to me on the Kevin Bass Show, you can actually find me on the YouTube channel as well, in case you want to check out my screen captures and look at what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these different things in these studies. So you can actually see what I'm looking at and talking about. So those are my thoughts there. Those are the things that I think are supported or not supported by the evidence. Dietary cholesterol does not affect testosterone production, and even blood cholesterol doesn't really affect testosterone production. This is a very marginal impact. And until you have a drug study that shows otherwise, and drugs are the best ways of doing it because you're not changing anything else except for just the blood cholesterol levels. And you ideally want multiple different drugs with multiple different mechanisms that all change cholesterol levels. Until a study actually shows that changing your cholesterol levels reduces your muscle mass, and I don't think anybody's ever shown that. We would know that at this point if there was an important effect. I'm not going to believe it, but I want to keep working on this and keep learning about this because I think there's actually some potential for some a retrospective study here. I need to talk to Spencer about that. Anyway, hope you liked the video. Comment, like, subscribe. Let me know. Also, go on iTunes and leave a review. Leave a review on iTunes. Because the oldest review is like from a year ago, and it's from some guy who said I muttered and stumbled over my words and had a mouthful of marbles and talked like I was on cocaine. So please, get your review above that guy's review so that that's not what people think this podcast is about. Cool. Hope you liked it. Enjoy. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.